This is a very impromptu video that I am deciding to do right here on the spot because I have been, over the last couple days, reading these various quotes in articles from Kevin Feige, who has apparently gone on like an interview tour, I guess, explaining the state of the MCU.
Oh, do I have to buy this? Ain't that about a bitch? You have to buy this shit. Why does every game do this now?
There's articles from Variety, articles from Deadline, so there's a whole bunch of them. I might have even missed some, but there's specific quotes from Kevin Feige that I kind of want to react to and talk about for certain reasons. So the first quote is, he states that even before everything that happened with Jonathan Majors, I'm talking about the controversy with his ex-girlfriend, the accusation of abuse that ultimately wasn't as substantial as people thought, that they were already, Marvel, were thinking about getting rid of Kang, moving on from Kang, that they realized that Kang is no Thanos. So even like after or before Quantumania, they were like, okay, we need to move on or have a backup plan for Kang. And I think that's kind of a fuck you to Jonathan Majors. Say what you want to say about Jonathan Majors. He's a great actor, and everybody was hyped as fuck when Jonathan Majors first showed up in the Loki Season 1 finale. His performance, the intrigue, the possibilities of what was to come for that character. I ultimately blame Marvel and Kevin Feige, I guess. And I never talk shit about Kevin Feige. I'm always out there saying Kevin Feige, our Lord and Savior. He's the reason why the MCU got to the heights that it got. And sure, when people have been turning on Marvel in phase 4 and 5, I've been the one saying, hey, it's not that bad. It's not amazing anymore, but it's not as bad as everyone is saying. There's still room to grow, or there's still destinations in order to get to that I think will win people back. But hearing comments like this makes it seem like, okay, you guys are making decisions and then backpedaling or having second thoughts, second guessing. This sounds like some DCEU shit where you guys weren't confident enough, or you saw reactions online, and instead of being confident on what you guys are doing in the future to hopefully bring this back around, you pivoted. And either he's lying about the Jonathan Majors thing, like, no, once he got in trouble, they figured let's cut ties and use that as an excuse to go another way, which, okay, fine, that's fine. But to say that creatively you've already realized it, it seems weird. How do you not already have it in stone? Have a blueprint of how to make Kang as interesting? He doesn't have to be Thanos from a physical threat point of view or be the same as Thanos. He's supposed to be different. So make him different, but make him as interesting. And I think having Ant-Man, of all characters, and I love Ant-Man, but having Ant-Man defeat Kang in the first real film that he's in, how is that anyone else's fault but Marvel themselves? Like, take accountability. I guess that's where my frustrations with a lot of what Feige is saying in these quotes is I don't feel like there's enough accountability and self-blame in why some of these projects and why the direction of Marvel has kind of been all over the place lately. He did mention that Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man 4 is a street level movie. Thank fucking God. That's one of the best quotes that he came from this. He admitted that it was quantity over quality when it came to the Disney Plus shows. There was reports of like this specific mandate of like, hey, you guys need to pump out content. Marvel is hot right now, so put out as much as you can. And for him to admit that, yes, there was too much for them to kind of take care of the quality, I can appreciate that. We got a lot of shit. I'm thinking of Secret Invasion, and like there's probably a few others we can debate. Some people will argue which other shows were good and not. I think we got some really good shows, but if we had cut out some of the bad ones, I think people would have much more pleasant things to say about the Disney Plus era. He mentioned that the Blade movie, the script is now in modern day, and he mentioned something along the lines of, oh, we just didn't want to just throw a leather jacket on Blade and have him fight vampires and leave it at that. We want to make sure that this is good. We want to make sure that we take care of Mahershala Ali and take care of the brand, and all of that sounds great, but I'll never understand. You can't convince me that writing a script for Blade, of all characters, is this fucking hard, that it's taking this long. I can appreciate, look at what we talked about with quantity over quality. I want them to make sure the quality is there. I want them to make sure these scripts are finessed and are a level of care that is deserved of this brand. But Blade, we've already done Blade fairly well with Wesley Snipes. I don't see how this character is this hard to tackle, but what do I know? Now here's what irked me the most. He mentions about Captain America Brave New World, because I guess the perception is that either the movie wasn't good. Of course, some people, I remember people saying that they didn't like the film, which is fine, it's their opinion, but that maybe the movie was a failure, even though it did very well in the box office. It wasn't the big giant numbers that maybe Marvel would want or a Captain America branded movie should bring. So Feige said that the reason why Captain America Brave New World failed is because there was no Chris Evans. And I'm not saying that that has no merit at all. I'm not saying that there aren't some people out there, maybe more casual theater audiences, that saw that Chris Evans isn't in the movie, or that he isn't Captain America anymore, and maybe they did say, I'm not interested. Maybe they did say, no, I'm not interested in a black Captain America. Whatever it is, sure, you have a small percentage, I think a small percentage of people who did feel that way. But to ignore and deny that the actual script of the movie, again, I am a somewhat defender of the film, but I will admit that as far as a Captain America movie, as far as Sam Wilson, the character's first Captain America movie, having it be so much more surrounded with Incredible Hulk characters, Incredible Hulk villains, having it feel more like an Incredible Hulk sequel with Captain America or Sam Wilson just thrown in there, that was very weird. I always thought that was weird, and even after watching the movie, I was like, that was weird. I didn't hate it, but it's just an odd direction to go for this. And I hate that it's more about Chris Evans. It's more about the actor. And maybe Feige didn't mean it this way. Maybe I'm just being sensitive for Anthony Mackie. But it just feels like a slap in the face, an indirect slap in the face to Anthony Mackie, to pretend like he couldn't carry his own movie on his own, or that if the material was top-notch, if the material was A-list, if the material was at the level, or at least close to the level of a First Avenger, Winter Soldier, Civil War, that like a film led by him could bring more money like that. It felt disingenuous. It felt like we're making excuses, or we're just trying to say, oh, maybe this is why, or maybe that and that and that. Like, let's not pretend. This isn't a situation where Chris Evans got fired, and so now you have all of this audience who are supporting him and backing him, and they're boycotting future Captain America movies because they stand by Chris Evans. Or this isn't something where Chris Evans and Marvel had a falling out, and so now there's bad blood. I mean, even Scarlett Johansson, it's like there's this weird thing with what happened with her and Black Widow and the fallout kind of that. Chris Evans didn't have that. He had a send-off. They built it into the story. Why Chris Evans and Steve Rogers in Avengers Endgame, one of their most watched films. Everybody saw that fucking movie. So nobody should be surprised that Steve Rogers or that Chris Evans is not around anymore, that he's not that character anymore. They established that at the end of Endgame. He gave the fucking shield to Anthony Mackie in that movie. So why would it still be an issue 5+ years later that people are still grappling with or dealing with. If you had built this up better, if maybe this movie came out sooner after Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show, or maybe if instead of the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show, if you had this movie first, where instead of what we got, you had the movie be Falcon and Winter Soldier, or Captain America and Winter Soldier, if it was Sam and Bucky, buddy cop, having them be partners, like that would have killed, that would have crushed, not just at the box office, but I think it would have been far more enjoyable as well. The one scene where Bucky shows up in the movie, kind of one of the best scenes in the film. Imagine the whole movie, 2 hours of that. I just feel like a lot of what went into some of these projects that have not been doing as well, there's a lot more to it than just, we don't have Robert Downey Jr., which is also what they're trying to do to solve their problems for Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. Let's just bring Downey back, as opposed to having an actual story that is compelling enough to bring those audiences back, to have Doctor Doom presented in such a cool way, and not just the intrigue of, he's played by Downey, so let's watch it for that reason. Last quote before I end this, because I've gone longer than I thought, is that he mentions that the MCU will be rebooted after Secret Wars, which I guess a lot of people speculated on. A lot of people talked about how they're probably going to reboot the MCU at some point soon. And creatively, yeah, I can see why they want to do that, but it feels a little premature. Feige referenced James Gunn's reboot of Superman, recasting of Superman, and how well that's doing. He made it seem like because of that, it makes him think that we need to recast Iron Man, recast Captain America, and that will bring sort of the fun of Marvel back. And I still feel the same, man. You're going to have people reject that, because look at how many people are still rejecting Superman with the Henry Cavill situation. But that's, sure, maybe a small online minority. You still have what feels like a lazy approach of like, none of these newer superhero characters are working. Let's just reboot, recast, and redo all of the shit that we've already been doing over the last 15, 20 years. I'm not saying don't recast and don't reboot, but I don't want you to reboot and have the same level of quality or the same level of rushing, the same level of trying to recreate this magic. And it's going to be the same type of shit. Whereas the idea for me as a comic book fan, as a superhero fan, to keep going forward, to keep creating new characters, to keep introducing new characters and new actors into this world without the reboot. The MCU is going to be potentially one of the only franchises that would never have to reboot in a perfect world. And I think they need to figure out more of maintaining budgets. They need to figure out more of, like he says, quality over quantity. There's other issues here, more than just recasting and rebooting and bringing old familiar characters back, but new actors, and so you're still going to have these issues. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I am misinterpreting these quotes wrong, because they are just headlines and quotes and articles that I'm reading, and you're not really even seeing how they're said or the context of it. Let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think of these quotes from Feige? Do you think that he's right in everything, or do you think that there's some issues here with Marvel? And some people will say there has been issues. We've been telling you that there's been issues. I don't know. It just feels like they really don't know what the fuck they're doing right now. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.